If we would have, we're going to move on to the Whatcom County Charter, so if we could have Mr. Dave Stalheim and Mr. Shane Ross please take their place up where she just left. And Kay Ingram will read the County Charter Amendment now.
The Whatcom County Charter Amendment Number 1, Salary Commission. The Whatcom County Council has proposed an amendment to the Whatcom County Charter concerning establishment of an independent salary commission. This measure would establish an independent salary commission to fix the compensation of Whatcom County elected officials subject to a referendum by the people, should this proposal be approved.
So I would like to introduce to you today, supporting the County Charter Amendment is Mr. Dave Stalheim, who will speak in favor. And Shane Ross will speak against the measure. You may, Mr. Stalheim, you may give your 2-minute opening statement now.
Thank you very much. I'm Dave Stalheim, and I'm here to represent the support for this charter amendment. I attended the county council hearing and spoke in favor of this measure, in large measure because of my concern about the pay for the top elected officials in Whatcom County. As everyone knows, there's a movement going on. 99% of us are fed up with the 1% controlling our future. The salary of the county executive is in the 1% of Whatcom County salaries. And as we have found recently out, in addition to that salary, the county executive and the prosecuting attorney are making almost $150,000 a year. On top of that, they are also being paid additional expenses for both their cars and other overtime. They get paid overtime in addition to that, in the tune of over $9,000 for each of them. So my concern in support of this amendment was that I think that the citizens of Whatcom County perhaps are fed up with this type of situation, and that they think that the salaries of our top elected officials should be in line with the rest of our community. The county executive's pay is almost equal to the governor with far less responsibility. Right now we have candidates that have no executive experience that are running for this office, and that concerns me. The median income of individuals within Whatcom County is $30,420, whereas a county executive will get paid $147,000 plus another almost $10,000 in expenses. So that's why I'm helping to support this look at this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stalheim. Mr. Roth?
Thank you. I speak in opposition to this ballot measure based on what the measure lacks. It lacks a requirement for a public hearing. It lacks any check or balance in the event that the Salary Commission were to make a mistake in its decision. But it also lacks refinement. The language is cut and pasted almost word for word from the Snohomish County Charter. Expecting this language to function in our charter is like taking an oil filter from a Ford and using it in a Chevy and expecting the engine to work on the grounds that they're both cars. A salary commission has merit as a concept, but you're not voting on the concept. You are voting on the language, and this language is needlessly flawed. These flaws can be fixed much more easily before they are written into the charter, and will prove profoundly difficult to fix after they are written into the charter. This ballot measure amends the county charter. It doesn't update the county's Facebook status. Vote no on this rough draft of a ballot measure and insist instead that the Charter Review Commission perfect the language to make it work with our unique home rule charter. Thank you.
Thank you. I will begin the questioning, and again, audience members who want to ask can go to that or line up here to ask your question here. In a rare, the question is for both of you gentlemen, and if you would begin, Mr. Stalheim. In a rare unanimous vote, the present county council referred this amendment to the ballot. Does this represent their dissatisfaction with the present system or with their amount of compensation?
I probably would say it represents perhaps neither of those, because I think at times the county council and others are very much interested in hearing from the voters what they think about the situation. So as far as what I understand of the county council, I don't think it's a dissatisfaction with their rate of pay themselves. Again, I testified at that public hearing with respect to not the council salary, but the executive salary and the top elected officials that are getting paid over $100,000 in Whatcom County. So I would say that I think they're interested in the situation where citizens, the folks that elect them, make this decision, and it turns from not a political decision, but it turns to what the public thinks their elected officials should be compensated.
Thank you.
I think it reflects a lack of attention to detail on the part of the county council, particularly the chair of the county council. And I think it reflects a sense of the county council licking their finger and putting up and see which way the wind blows. This was a decision made, and it would have been very politically difficult for any member of this council to vote against putting this to the people. So I think that there was a level of cynicism that that causes me to be nervous about this entire measure. And I'd also like to point out that Mr. Stalheim bravely came up here to defend something that the proponents of this measure didn't bother to come here to defend. And I think that speaks volumes about this measure as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll continue with the second question. 4 members of the commission will be appointed by the county executive. 6 members of the 10-member proposed commission would be randomly appointed. Some have suggested drawing names from a hat. What kind of expertise could these people bring to the understanding of how the job should be compensated? And we'll start with the opposing side first, and then go to the supporting side.
Well, my understanding is that the method that will be used to select these, the random members of the commission is to be dictated by the county auditor's office, according to state law. So that procedure would have to be worked out and would have to be implemented at the direct expense of county taxpayers. And I am less concerned about the 6 randomly chosen citizens than I am about the 4 appointed citizens who will be appointed by either Mr. Laus or Mr. Erickson should this pass.
Thank you. Mr. Stalheim?
Yes, the 4 that are appointed, they also have to be confirmed by the county council, but they, by statute, represent business, professional personnel management, legal profession, and organized labor. So you have 4 particular expertise or interest groups that would be part of the salary commission. The other 6 would be at large. As I was reading the legislation with respect to this, if the names are drawn and people don't want to serve, then they move on to another name on the list. If someone is then appointed to it and they don't attend, or they do something that has a conflict of interest, they can be removed from that commission as well. The other thing I really want to point out too is that this is subject to referendum. When the Salary Commission, if they increase the rate of pay for anybody, us citizens can put that referendum on the ballot, and that rate of pay increase will be stopped immediately as a result of that referendum. So there are checks and balances as part of this.
Okay. I'm going to, not seeing someone at that microphone, I'm going to continue with the third question. And we'll reverse the order of answering. Mr. Stalheim first, please, and then Mr. Roth. How much money would this cost? Are we adding a layer of bureaucracy to the process?
Well, and I think that's one of the questions that Mr. Roth has brought up too, is the question of how much it would cost, because there is some compensation for mileage for people to attend the meetings. I don't know that it would cost a lot. It would have to be put within the budget. But again, as we look at the cost for the salaries and the compensation, there was $174,000 in additional benefits that were provided to elected officials and department heads. If a citizen panel can find those kind of cost savings and take that into account with respect to their final decision, is that there'd be cost savings in the long run. But I really think that we should probably also look at the form of government that we have here in Whatcom County, and I'm glad to see that in 2 years we're actually going to look at the charter with Whatcom County, and I think there's probably other ways that we can be a more efficient and effective county government here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Roth?
I'm not entirely sure what the bureaucratic cost would be for adding this commission. I assume that it would be relatively modest, but also meaningful. It would have a measurable, if small, impact on just the cost of doing business. My greater concern would be what would happen if the Salary Commission were to decide to substantially increase salaries. For example, if the intent was to compare salaries to the private sector, I imagine the county prosecutor, being an attorney, might go up substantially. I also point out that a CEO of a private corporation makes considerably more than $140,000, and if that were taken into account, it is likely that there will be a substantial increase in the county executive's pay, not a decrease. Thank you.
Okay. And another question, and we'll reverse the order again. Other cities and the legislature use this system. How has it worked for them?
That sounds like something I should know. Well, near as I can tell, there hasn't been anything of a there have been no disastrous results because of a salary commission, but I think that they actually created language that worked within their specific county government. The Snohomish County Council is the model on which this is based, but what I don't know, which troubles me the most, is what are the differences between the Snohomish County Home Rule Charter and the Whatcom County Home Rule Charter. If we implement this, we're going to find out the hard way what the differences are, and I'd rather find out by having something that is perfected and explicitly designed to function within our county charter and take into account the unique properties of the Whatcom County Home Rule Charter. We don't need a rough draft put into our county charter. We need something that has been refined, edited, vetted, preferably by the Charter Review Commission. Thank you.
Mr. Stalheim.
Well, I'm not intimately familiar with the results of other jurisdictions. I did look at the Snohomish County's Salary Review Commission and some of the results they've done, but the legislation and the ordinance is based on an RCW that has very specific procedures in it. And so I'm looking at RCW 3617.024 right now, and it has very specific procedures in how this is done. So this is very well established. I don't think we are creating any kind of new thing, and it's a very specific procedure that's in state law, and we're going to put it within our charter to say that the citizens of Whatcom County want to have a decision in setting the salaries of our elected officials. If the salaries need to be increased, then this group would say that. If they say that the salary should be decreased, the group would say that. And if the citizens of the county don't like that result of that commission, they can do a referendum and change that decision.
Thank you. Question up there, please.
Thank you, everybody, for participating in this. I'm Steve Schuck. I have a question about the implementation of any recommendations of this commission. Some candidates have expressed a desire to stay in office as long as they can. Others express their own particular limitations of how long they will stay in office if elected. So, if one of them oversees a commission that recommends a salary increase, when will that increase take effect? Immediately or more or less immediately, or at the end of their elected tenure? If the Salary Commission recommends a decrease, when will that decrease take effect?
Supporting first, please.
I'm trying to quickly scan the RCWs to get that answer for you, Steve. You can, again, look at the 3617.024. It does have those answers. What I see quickly as I look at this is that salary increases that they meet every 2 years, it would become effective in the next calendar year. My understanding is that they meet in May, and so it would be effective the following year, that unless there's a referendum that the folks put into place to put it on the ballot, and then it would stop that whole process there. So if you are in office, it would go into effect. But again, they are not overseeing any of that process. Decreases, on the other hand, would not go into effect until the end of the term of that person. So increases would go in the following calendar year unless there's a referendum. Decreases would happen only at the end of that person's term, is what I'm reading in the RCW here.
Mr. Roth, do you want to add anything, Mr. Roth?
Yes. I think that Mr. Stalheim has full command of the facts on this. His command of the timing is consistent with mine. I just want to clarify, this commission doesn't make recommendations. They file the schedule and it becomes what the salaries are. They don't recommend something to the council who then ratifies it. They don't recommend it to the executive who then does anything. Without any action on the part of the council or the executive, this schedule is presented and is accepted as is, and the only mechanism that would change that would be referendum, gathering signatures, going through the trouble of petitioning and all that, which is an extremely inefficient check or balance. This is placing unitary power into the hands of 12 citizens, none of whom are elected.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Can I ask for a definition?
Yes, Steve, go ahead.
Thank you. Term. I hypothesize an office holder is elected twice for 4 years. That's a total span of 8 years. That the recommendation takes effect the second year of the first time that he's elected. When does the salary decrease take effect?
I'm quite confident that it would be at the end of their term. So if you're elected to a 4-year term, it would be at the end of that 4-year term. So
you take office after election at a lower salary, after re-election?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
I concur with what Mr. Stalheim said.
Any other questions? I believe we have someone moving to the microphone.
You mentioned the public's ability to change this with a referendum, and I agree that's a difficult campaign to get together. But do we have that right now? Could we get together a referendum to adjust a salary that the council has approved?
I'm sure that you do. The county charter provides the ability to have initiative and referendums. I need to step back and think about that, because there's some things that you can't do initiative and referendum on, and budget issues may be one of them, specific lines where you might not be able to. So I'm not positive. There's quite a bit of things that you can do by initiative and referendum, but that level of detail, I'm not sure. And so I'll pass on to Shane. He might have some observation.
It's my understanding, and I'm going by memory here, so bear with me, that the county council has the vested power to set salaries, and that appears in the charter itself. So I don't believe that referendum can be used to change the charter right now. Right now, referendum couldn't be used to second-guess a salary decision. You just have to elect someone who will do what you want.
Thank you. With no further questions, I would ask Mr. Stalheim, you can have your 1-minute closing statement now, and then followed by Mr. Roth.
Well, thank you. Again, I think this is a good opportunity for Whatcom County to think about Whatcom County government in the charter. The charter is a very unique opportunity for the citizens to set the parameters for how we want Whatcom County to be governed. In 2 years from now, you're going to elect a new Charter Review Commission that's going to look at other opportunities for us to structure Whatcom County to meet the needs of the citizens of the future. I think this is a great first step in that conversation in 2 years from now. I have worked for many different governments over the last 25 years in public service, and one of my concerns is the effectiveness of Whatcom County's government and the council, the part-time council that is not really doing what is best for Whatcom County, and I think we need to take a look at that. In the last year alone, they've lost 3 Growth Management Hearings Board cases and 1 case in front of the Supreme Court because they are not full-time, they are not effective county council members. I think we need to take a look at these issues, and the Salary Commission is one opportunity to look at that. Thank you.
Roth?
I can appreciate the frustration that that is behind this ballot measure, and I can appreciate that people really want control over their government. But I believe that this measure actually removes transparency and gives the electorate less direct control over this component of their county government. We right now have people who, when they set salaries, they have to have a public hearing of some kind, and they have to face you on election day. These checks and balances will be removed and handed to a group of people who are really ultimately accountable to no one for all intents and purposes. This is a flawed, rough draft, and it needs to be vetted and perfected, preferably by the Charter Review Commission in 2013, to actually get us something that will make our charter better and more representative, not less. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your being here with us today. We're going to move on to the school board candidates that here. So with Ken Gass and